used to think about it madly. You want a conversation gladly, and I'm hoping oh so badly you can show me who is Scott Daddy.
Hey,
Love
what's
that.
up, anyone listening currently or in some future timeline? It's been way too long since I've done this, since I've had any YouTube discussions for lots of reasons, most of them kind of my own fault. Just been going to school, doing work, all that good stuff. However, I will say it's not all my fault. There's a lot of people out there who like to get debate warrior on me online, and then they don't have the courage to show up when I invite them. They just usually bail on me last minute. So that being said, it's much appreciation to you, Kiko, for showing up. Someone who actually
Of
willing to
course.
come have these discussions.
I love
Yeah,
to.
welcome. If you wanna just kind of introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah, I'm Kiko. I'm originally from Brazil. I moved to the US when I was 12. I gave my life to Christ kind of recently, 2 years ago, I would say. And I've been following ever since. I've been reading the Bible and stuff like that, and trying to just be a good Christian and just yeah, not backing out of conversations is a good start. For
Yeah,
sure, for sure.
yeah, it amazes me the amount of people who will so willing to go all in on me,
Yeah,
and then the minute like I actually invite them to come talk somewhere live, it's
yeah.
like ghost. But
I get people like that as well. It's just like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I
Stand
think
up
it's
for what you think, I think.
exactly. Yep, I
Yeah.
agree with that completely. So from Brazil, uh, is that were you not raised Christian at all? Because I know it's like pretty popular there, right?
It's Catholic mostly. I was raised Protestant though, in a Baptist church, and well, actually, why the reason why I fell away from my faith was because when I moved here, it was a really hard move for me. I got really mad at God and just kind of like shoved into the side and said like, "Hey, I don't want you." And then I just fell down a stream of beliefs that led me to become an atheist, and I was
Yeah.
just very much like to the point where I just did not believe in God at all. Thought the Bible was complete BS. Um, and then yeah, very recently I went on a missions trip. And on the missions trip, ironically, I gave my life to Christ, and uh, God very much revealed himself to me in ways that I never expected he could. Because, yeah.
Hmm, cool. Yeah, that's a interesting journey. You kind of like started and then went off the deep end and then kind of
Yeah.
came back
Yeah.
into Christ a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay,
Not
cool.
not a
Nice.
little bit, a whole lot. Like
Oh, full
I'm
blown.
serious on this now. Like I'm serious
uh,
on this
that makes sense. Yeah,
for
and
sure.
that's actually a good distinction because I do feel like there's a lot of people out there who like live the religious life,
Yeah.
but they're
Yeah. Yeah.
not actually fully sold out to it. So
Yeah, yeah, which is the problem with actual like religion, like the very word religion. It's just like I have a lot of people in my family that I know of that do that. It's just going to church on Sunday, repenting for their sins, and then just carrying out their week, doing whatever they want. That's
yeah.
religion, and Christianity is not that, and that's a whole other topic. But
So I guess last interview question then, you don't actually follow any religion or anything. You just sort of do your own kind of studies, maybe Bible studies, stuff like that.
I go to church, but
Oh, okay.
I don't like. I really don't think that like, or it's not even an opinion. It's not even. I don't think Christianity at its core is not a religion. Like if you r- follow the Bible and do what the Bible tells you to do, it's not a religion. I do think that churches make it a religion and make it. I think it's more common in mega churches and everything, but
Yeah.
it's not. It's truly when it's so cheesy. I hate it to say it, but it's Christianity, and your relationship with Christ is not a religion. It's a relationship, and
Mm,
it's very true to its core. Like once I understood that, the whole game changed.
Yeah, I get that actually. And I've said that myself, speaking with Christians online and stuff, is
Hmm.
that like in my opinion, the way I've read Jesus and read the Bible and everything is he didn't actually want this like big
Oh yeah, no,
religious institution. Just
no.
what I think he meant by the church is just a body of followers, like the church of
Hmm.
God is
Hmm.
his followers, right?
Hmm. No, yeah, absolutely. You
Cool.
hit the nail on the head. Yeah.
All right. Well, so just want to explain a little bit. Typically, like I was telling you earlier, like my discussions usually are they appear more interview like and everything. But I've talked to a lot of Christians, and I'm not sure that would fit this discussion as well. So it might be fun to kind of try something new that I've never done on the channel, to where we sort of do this kind of informal debate where we
Hmm.
don't have a moderator, but we're both going to take time to present our frameworks, like our kind of our groundings, our
Hmm.
reasoning why we think it's the best moral system, in which each of us will then respond with some questions, critiques, whatever it may be. There's no winner
Hmm.
here. It's not a debate in
Hmm.
that sense. I still discussion is much more valuable to me than actual debate. So
Yeah, yeah,
we'll
I
see how it
think that
goes.
too.
Cool. Yeah, I think we're both pretty chill dudes, so I don't think a moderator would
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
necessarily do
for
anything.
sure.
Before we start real quick, I just want to do some housekeeping things. So the rant I was going on before about people not showing up was a little foreshadowing to tell everyone that you know, if you're listening and you enjoy having these types of discussions, like I would love for you to hit me up and come on here. Or if you know of
Mhm.
anybody who's like way too like into philosophy or into religion and they won't shut up about it, like this is the place. So send them here. My email, Discord, and TikTok are all in the YouTube descriptions, and I will respond on all of those platforms. So yeah, just hit anyone who likes to have the discussion, send them my way. Um, okay, and then did we decide beforehand if you prefer to just do your part first, or what would you
You said
prefer?
you wanted to do yours, which I'm
Okay,
fine with.
cool. I'll do mine first then. Um, mine is a bit wordy, and I'm gonna try and condense it down as much as possible,
That's
but
fair.
it might be kind of hard. And also just feel free to like interrupt and stop me if there's any words or phrases or something that you need me to define or clarify,
I
because
got you.
yeah, there's a lot of stuff here. So the first part being is it's something called a hypothetical imperative, and it's less complicated than it sounds. It basically is just an if then statement. So something like, if you love your wife, then you will clean the house for her, right? So it's sort of a way to bridge what some people have called the is ought gap, where like just because there's something about the world, it doesn't follow then that you like therefore ought do it. And so the hypothetical imperative is there to serve as like, well, if you do actually value this thing, then there is an objective best way to achieve that thing that you're valuing. Does that make sense? So,
Sure.
yeah,
I
if
think
there's
I'm
no
following.
okay. Yeah, again, the easiest way is just like how I would say is like, if I want to be a moral person to my fellow humans, like then
Hmm.
I ought not kill people randomly, right? Like so with that, I think that life itself, universally, all of life has actually met the first part of this hypothetical imperative in a sense, because they all share a biological imperative to persist in their own being, or to continue living, survive, whatever you might call that. So there is this shared maybe people have a problem with the word value, but there's this shared biological imperative. In other words, there's a shared goal that all life wants to survive and persist in its own being. And so from there, I think because the first part is met, we can then say, therefore, there are objective ways to actually better achieve that goal. That's only the first part of it, though, because these first two things are just natural facts that I think we can observe in reality. So the second part is that everything that exists or occurs naturally in our universe exists in relations or interactions to other things. So an example I like to give is like water, right? Water is an emergent property, or I don't know if you'd call it an emergent property, but it's something that arises because oxygen and hydrogen, two different molecules, come together in a relation in order to form something else, right? So basically I'm saying that everything that we see that arises, changes, like progresses, all this stuff, it arises out of relations to other things. And this is where I think that moral systems arise from as well. They arise from us as humans interacting in our web of relations. And this web of relations includes things like the ecosystem, trees, for oxygen, plants, animals, and then obviously humans. The rational creatures are going to be the bigger emphasis here because we have the language to describe the moral systems and all that. But essentially, a person just can't exist in a vacuum. Like, we are dependent on these webs of relations. We require them in order for that shared goal that I described in the first premise. So those are the two pieces of natural facts that I'm using to say we can ground this objective system in the natural world. So those two premises alone are the grounding. Yeah. Do you have any
Sure.
questions about just those parts or critiques or anything?
Not yet.
Okay,
I'll
cool.
have them. I'll have them for later.
Cool. Okay. So from there, this is where I basically my biggest claim that I'm positing is that when we use moral language and moral statements and judgments, this is the phenomena we're describing is our web of relations and how it's affecting the whole system of relations. Most philosophers, most people throughout time have been saying moral judgments and moral statements are referring to the oughts, the like thou shalt not kill, right? That's the moral thing right there, because you're compelling someone to do, you're saying they should do something. Whereas I'm just saying, I think we're actually talking about the system itself rather than the prescriptions or the shoulds. And why I think this is because I don't think oughts exist in any meaningful way at all. Objective oughts in any way, even if it comes to empirical observations. So like I could present you with tons of data that it's raining outside my house right now, whatever. Like I could put the camera over there or whatever. I could do all sorts of just natural empirical tests to show you, hey, it's raining outside. But you as the individual, no matter how much data I present you, you still have to be convinced yourself. You could still be like, well, you have a trick on your camera, yada, 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 right? So even in the most like empirical observation of the natural world, there's no compelling someone to actually believe and value that data. So I just don't think they exist anywhere at all. And even in something like a Christian framework or an objective moral framework with God, there still is no like you can tell me God is real, like, and even if you convince me, you should, and you could say, if you want to like go to heaven and be with your family and God and everything, you should do these things. I still as an individual have to like
Be skeptical and question it. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, like I'm the only one that can compel an ought. Like,
yeah,
this is why I think oughts are just kind of like they're not objective in any of our languages at all, not just moral language. So that's why I'm saying we're not describing oughts. I think we're actually describing natural systems that exist in the world. And And so a couple principles that I think we can derive from this system, at least the two biggest ones I found so far, are the principle of reciprocity, which is just basically the partners in a relation, whatever that relation looks like, are both being selfish and selfless at the same time, like an equal amount. They're both getting like the symbiotic value out of the relation because they're giving and taking. It's easy to maybe picture it in like a very loving partnership, right? Where I'm going to sacrifice my time to clean the house for my wife or whatever. She's going to give me back in some other way. It's
Mm,
reciprocal. We're both gaining something and
mhm,
we're both sacrificing something. Um, and then the other one is just basically the principle of autonomy or the valuing of the will. I think for good relations to work, good systems of relationships, the individuals that are involved in those relations have to be so willingly, not being like forced to, like slavery is the example, right? That's not a good relation because someone's being forced to engage in that dominant relation, right?
yeah.
Um, and then there's a ton to it, so I'll just wrap it up with one more thing. I think we can also sort of engage with in relation with ourselves as individuals, um, simply because we are beings that move through time and motion, and so the way I like eat today could absolutely affect how I feel tomorrow, or if I like drink a shit ton tonight, right? I might just feel really crappy tomorrow. So that's
Just
why I
might.
think yeah, we can engage in relation with ourselves in that sense. And this is where I think virtue ethics come into play. Virtue ethics is a means by how you engage in relation with yourself as an individual. And the four virtues that I would posit as the most important being wisdom, courage, moderation, and justice. Just to quickly break them down, wisdom being the rational part, the rational reasoning faculties of us as individuals, constantly trying to seek wisdom and knowledge and discover truth by using our reasoning faculties. Courage can be best explained kind of as like emotional IQ and just the ability to stand up and back up your reasoning faculties. So, like, if I've decided through my own reasoning that it's something immoral is happening in front of me, right? My courage has to be strong enough to like actually stand up and interject into that situation that I've reasoned about. And then moderation is pretty obvious, but I want to give a caveat to it because I think a lot of people think that moderation is just like, well, avoid X bad thing like as much as possible, such as like alcohol or something, right? Whereas I think suppression of desires and pleasures is can be an equally extreme bad thing. So it's not moderate to just suppress all your desires and never do anything that sounds fun and pleasurable to you. Because
Mhm,
suppressing these can lead to negative outcomes for the self as well.
mhm,
Um, so, and then the last one is justice is just how you sort of engage in that system of relations, right? Obviously, being just to a stranger, if you did them wrong or whatever it may be. And I think the other three virtues, if you perfect them, will actually lead to you naturally engaging in justice properly. Sorry, that was wordy.
it
Hopefully, it
was.
made enough
Sure.
sense.
I think it did. I think it's a pretty strong case. It's like pretty. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's good.
Okay. So yeah, and I don't know if you want to start with some questions first or straight into some critiques, whatever you want to do here.
Um, I'm curious to how you argue like how. Okay, so obviously there's people that think differently and that think that they don't have a or that they have a subjective morality and they'll have different beliefs than you, and you claim to have an objective morality, right? How do you justify or explain the other person having those different beliefs? Is that also suppression of desires, or how does that work exactly?
Um okay. Well, I think there's kind of maybe two paths here in my mind. So there's like, first of all, people just disagree about lots of things.
Oh, you're telling me?
Yeah.
That's crazy, dude.
So like no matter what's objective in terms of morality, like
Hmm.
let's just like maybe me and you can agree, no label on it at all, that there is an objective morality, right? We
Sure.
don't know if it's God, we don't know if it's nature, my thing, whatever. We're just both agreeing there's an objective morality,
Hmm.
but we're like interpreting what that objective morality is differently.
Hmm.
So
Sure.
so I don't think that, yeah, like people will definitely interpret things differently, but I
Hmm.
don't think it actually takes away from the thing itself being real.
That's fair. But then how does the person get to so is the person in your view born with the objective morality and then switch with their beliefs later in life, or
Okay, good. Yeah, so this is actually sort of the second part I was thinking, is
Mhm.
that just sort of like why does this happen, I guess, right?
Sure.
If it's so obvious in my mind that there's like a natural system of ethics, like why are people going all these different ways? Um I will say I think that it's hard for humans to think outside of their own subjective experience. I think we do this all the time, not even just in terms of morality and everything else. Um, and we've also been historically a species of um, oral storytelling before writing was invented, right?
Yeah.
We've been sort of making up these stories to tell each other. And I'm not saying like your
Sure.
God's necessarily just made up or whatever, but like, there's
I've
there's
I've heard
obvious
I've
ones.
heard far worse. I don't
Yeah,
care for
yeah.
that.
Well, like, I mean, I think there's probably historical humans who would even admit, like, yeah, we didn't mean for the some of this stuff to be true. It was meant as a way to convey lessons of morality, stuff like this. So I think that because people live in such separate communities, right? Before everything became global, they developed their own languages, their own
Hmm.
stories, and their own cultures to tell each other about these lessons, right? But the lessons themselves are pointing to morality being a thing that exists.
Sure.
Um yeah, it's just it's contextual to their little community because again, we were raised in isolation, and our even language itself, like can really make something, one sentence, like mean something. I don't know how to explain what I'm trying to say there, but like
I think I
language
got you though.
yeah, yeah. I'll just stop
Yeah.
there for now.
No, that's fair. I think with that storytelling and kind of basing yourself on something, I definitely think that uh, at least in today's society, right, 2024, we base our morality very like a lot of it is based on the Bible, just culturally, period. Like unless you believe it, it doesn't matter if you believe it or not. Like culturally, we believe it in the Bible, and I think we do steal the morality from Christianity more often than not. Like some of it you can disagree with, and some of it is going to be slightly different, but like thou shalt not kill. Cool. That's biblical. Like
Mhm. Right.
whether you like it or not, like you know, it was
Yeah.
written way before any of us existed. Today, but
Yeah. Yeah. And
so
so I'm going to half agree and half disagree with you on this point because I like first of all, let me just say I'm sick of the like modern atheist movement that doesn't value the good things that religions do, because I do. I see historically what religions have done, both good and bad, right? Um So yeah, I'm tired of this trope that like religion just
It's
poisons
all
everything.
bad. It
Like
is
there's no
all
yeah,
bad. Yeah, yeah. No,
exactly.
no. I agree that the church, the Catholic Church, and Islam is like Islam's a whole different thing, but like
Yeah.
especially the church, the Catholic Church has done a lot of bad. For sure.
Yeah.
Dude, crusades, like they're
Yeah.
not great, man. It's
And
like
that's what
for sure, but
I'm sort of like tired of sort of I guess both sides being like,
yeah.
well, religions did everything for us. We'd be nowhere without it,
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
well, religion just poisons everything. Like
Yeah.
and this goes into my broader point actually is that I value all of human historical human knowledge, philosophies, religions. Like I'm trying to study most of it,
Mhm.
including Eastern religions, Greek philosophies, right? Um, so while I agree with you that the Western world, and especially the US, um, has had a major influence from Christianity
Mhm.
as far as our basic laws, such as um, stealing, killing, stuff like that, right? Um,
Mhm.
but Christianity itself had a lot of influence as well. And this influence it was heavily influenced by the Greek philosophies that came before it. Although the Old Testament came before ancient Greek. Um
Okay.
so yes, I
There
understand
you go.
that foundation was there. However, the New Testament and all the Christians that arose right after Christ's death were heavily influenced by Greek philosophies. Things like sort of how God can be omnipotent, omnipowerful, all these theologies that came with Christianity
Mhm.
about rationalizing the good, what the good is. All this stuff is really heavily influenced by ancient Greek. Um, and then I'll go back even further with the Old Testament, right? That was during a time where there were multiple systems arising. So you had ancient Asia, for example, where Taoists, Confucius, and Buddhists were all arising with very similar golden rule type things, um creating these moral systems without the framework of like Yahweh talking to his chosen people.
Right. Which actually I think helps my point with the objective. Well, actually, it just helps objective morality,
Yeah,
you know,
it does.
in total. But um, yeah, the fact that it's ingrained in us, and actually, this leads kind of into my kind of next point. It's just kind of also in there. The fact that like I just man, like just the word objective morality, and it means that it's in all of us, right? Like everyone has that. It's a belief where it it is beyond us. It covers all of us. It's something bigger than us. Just the word objective implies that. It confuses me to again, you did make a very strong case for objective morality in a naturalistic standpoint,
Yeah.
but it still leaves that question to be answered. The How is the objective morality, bigger than us, but we made it from something small, like me and you. We made objective morality. I believe that there has to be something that's bigger than even the morality itself to make it. Do you understand my point? Or
Yeah, I think so. And I actually think this is going to be a huge part of our contention
yeah, yeah, yeah.
where
It's what
it's
we were talking about it the other
yeah,
day, and it's like I just wanted to bring
yeah,
it back to it, but yeah.
that's definitely like if we could try to see eye to eye and understand each other here, I think we'll
Mhm.
both come away, I guess, understanding each other's systems better and whatnot. Um, so okay, so you said objective being this thing bigger than us, right?
Yeah.
And I think maybe we're gonna disagree here what that like bigger than us means, or because from the way you're using the language, it sounds like what you mean is beyond, sort of beyond and above or supernatural to us in a
Mhm.
way. Whereas to me, like something can be bigger than us when it's a system made up of parts. So there's an entire system with all these little parts interacting to make that system function.
Mhm.
And to me, that system is, so it is bigger than us. There is a thing bigger than us. We're just one of the parts that make up that system.
Do you have anything else that is bigger than us that is like that? Because I don't think there's anything close to, like, you know, something that we as a species make that's bigger than us, right? Because I think I
Yeah.
truly think that it's a contradiction in the very belief itself. It's you don't believe in a god and yet you believe in something that's higher than you or bigger than you. So I think that it's either you believe in God and believe in objective morality, or you don't believe in God and don't believe in and believe in a subjective morality. That's my point of view. I don't think they can.
Yeah. I, to be fair, I think that maybe a lot of our hangups might be how we are seeing words, using and interpreting words, and what they mean to us personally, and how we both were raised in our cultures, and what these, again, it's, I think a lot of a lot of philosophical and religious problems to me, and political problems, are a matter of utilizing language correctly. Um, so I'll say this, if so, let's just get metaphysical real quick, because I don't really like, I'm not offended if you want to tell me I believe in God, by the way. Like that's, to me,
Yeah, you
that's,
mentioned it a little
yeah.
bit. Like it's you mentioned something about it, like you could get me to admit that I believe in I forget exactly what you said in.
I think that I usually say you could get me to admit that I believe in God if you define it a specific way, right?
Yeah. So
I don't, because I don't believe in most the gods posited by any religions. Um, but I also don't believe in like supernatural forces. I just believe that there is an entire system of reality. Like there's only whatever, if it's infinite or if it's capped somewhere, whatever it may be, there's this container and it all operates with individual parts.
sure. Yeah, I see that happening a lot with like ex-Mormon, ex-Muslim, ex whatever it is, ex-religious, like grew up religious and then came out of it. With, you still believe in a God. You don't know what it is. You don't know where to, like, you don't know how to point your finger at it. You don't even know where to point. Um, but you believe in it. And yeah, it sucks. I'm sorry to say that, but I think you got to look at Christianity very uh skeptically, I think. Like in the good sense, where
Yeah.
I have tried, dude, I have tried to poke holes in Christianity, and there's always an answer for it. I kid you not, bro. It is crazy how airtight it is.
Okay,
Um,
we're gonna, you know what? We're gonna have to already. I'm telling you now. We're gonna
this is
do
not a
another.
conversation for today. This is not
Yeah,
a conversation
but
for
we're gonna
today.
set up another round some future date, and we are gonna go in on Christianity, and I will bring you all of my hardest questions, and you can give me all the answers for it.
I will try. I don't
Or we
claim
can
to
look
be a
for them
theologian.
together.
For
Yeah.
sure. I don't claim to be a theologian. I do watch a lot of apologetic stuff, and I like to think that I can make a pretty good case for it.
Yeah.
But, I am
Well,
so
and
down for
I'll
it.
tell you, by the way, like I'm the same. So, obviously you just have to trust my word here, but like I listen to people I disagree with probably as much as people I do agree with. I like to listen to Christian apologetics. I like to listen to different Christians debate their theologies. And
Yeah,
like
that one I
uh,
like. That one I actually
yeah,
like
it's
a lot
fun.
as well. Yeah,
So yeah, don't put it past me that I haven't critically analyzed Christianity, because I have. And I've also
for sure.
spiritually analyzed it. In fact, I've said prayers while reading scriptures. I've even had I'll admit something to you right now. I've had weird things kind of happen to me that felt a little supernatural, but I wasn't comfortable. It wasn't strong enough. I wasn't comfortable to be like, this is enough proof to me that it was some God intervention. But it was
You'll never
weird.
you'll never have enough proof if you don't accept the little proof you have. It's very it is faith based. It's the whole
Right. And
point
that's
of
my
the
biggest
thing.
problem with it, to be honest. Uh, Faith is something
it's everyone's problem that
yeah,
doesn't believe in Christian or anything. It's
yeah,
the faith. It is and it's well, without getting too much into it because we're getting very off
yeah,
topic, but
we
it's
are.
it's atheism is also faith based. Again, without getting too into it, but it's like I just don't understand how you can think of something so illogical of the nothing combined into nothing made everything. That
To be fair,
no
I
sense.
don't think
And that is
I don't
faith.
think most atheists posit that as what went
Well,
down.
whatever it is, right? It's a natural thing
Yeah.
that
So okay, this is actually why I wanted to get into metaphysics a little bit, because this
go
is
good,
important to me,
bring it
right?
back because we're getting very
My
off.
my system is a natural system, right? And again, like you ended that whole thing by saying you believe in God, but I'll just remind you, I said that you could maybe get me to admit that I believe in God if you
Sure.
define it a certain way. So
Yeah, define it
I
because
don't
you didn't
I
define a
well
lot.
I don't actually say I believe in God. That's the problem here. Like to me, I don't believe in God. I believe in a naturally existing system that's made up of parts. And so the metaphysics here, let me just try and do a side by side, right? Assuming your God has existed for all eternity,
Hmm.
contains morality within his own nature, contains all of knowledge within his own nature, things like this, right? It's just the uncaused thing that exists eternally. Is that fair enough? So to me, logically, rationally, I can actually hold that same exact stance. This is something in God's nature. So clearly, nature can have an eternally existing substance. So I just take the God part out of it. There is
Wait,
this
you said
system.
you said we can have a eternally existing substance like society, you mean? Or what is
Substance
that?
or just thing, just like entity, just like, so God is,
But how is it eternal if we are not?
well, because we're just a part. We're not the whole. We're a part of the whole.
So it is bigger than us. We just kind of adopted the morality from this something.
So if you're going with my metaphysics for a second, and just quickly, I was just trying to compare my naturally existing reality with your naturally existing God, right? It's just an uncaused thing that has existed forever and will always exist. Just like God, I just take the God part out. It's just a natural system doing that.
Yeah, I don't think you believe in God then.
Yeah, and that's what I don't either. Yeah.
Yeah. It is. I kind of get why you say that. It's just like the very nature of God implies a eternal, all powerful, all knowing um thing. That's God. Like there's a fourth one in there. I forget exactly what it is, but
Yeah.
that's God. Like you defining, this thing higher than us is not God. But
Yeah,
I
I
got
agree.
it. It's just again you defining it a different way. But
Well, to be clear, like I agree with that. Like I typically still refer to myself as an atheist, though I just prefer to say naturalist. Like it atheism to
it
me, it answers
cares.
no questions. It does making the statement that I'm an atheist is unimportant and stupid to me. Like I'd rather posit something I believe rather than something I don't believe. Like I don't know. I don't go around saying like the sky's not yellow. I would go around saying the sky's blue, if
Sure.
that makes
Yeah,
sense.
that makes sense. Also, I think the word atheist carries a lot of baggage.
True.
Like it's a very hard, powerful word.
Yeah.
Um,
So going so from the metaphysics here a little bit, if you just to internally critique me a little bit, if we're gonna start off with my foundation of this uncaused system that just exists and we're all a part of it, you can see where the grounding of relations comes in because all of the parts are in relation making this whole system operate. And
mhm,
so just like a rock comes into existence by suns like supernovaing and materials clashing to produce new substance that we call rock in the same, and that's objective, right? Rock is an objective thing in our reality. Just like that, intelligent creatures cooperating in order to survive emerges a new property that's objective in reality that we call morality.
mhm. Mm, yeah, I just don't think I really don't think that relationships or the reciprocity, as you call it, I don't think it would bring any morality. Well, I guess it would bring a morality. It would just be different. Because I mean, even as you put it, like you kind of put it as morality being something that's power or higher than us, I guess, and us kind of like just grabbing it, adopting it, right? Is that kind of how you put it?
So when I would say me saying it's bigger or higher than us, it just means that it's like dependent on something outside of our subjective experience. Like
But we still created it.
we created the language for it, but there is a objective good and bad description
Yeah,
of these interactions. That's the objective part.
yeah. Um, I don't think that answers all of the questions because it's something that can be good for putting yourself outside of the objective morality. Something that can be good for you for one tribe will be bad for the other tribe, and this tribe is actually wants to kill the other one, and
Right.
like because just out of
Well,
survival, like.
right.
So I don't think it answers all of the questions. I don't think like if you're gonna call it from survival, then rape would be a good thing. You're making more of your kind.
Mhm.
You're making your tribe bigger or something. And you can put consent in there, but consent isn't enough. Consent doesn't answer those questions.
So, yeah, let me back it up a little because the survival aspect isn't where I'm grounding the morals, right?
It's the
This,
relationships, and I get that.
yeah, exactly. The survival aspect is simply just something all life inherently is born with. Like life just has that goal. All of life has that goal. So I bring that up as a shared value, right? But again, like you just said, like that's not where the morality is grounded. The relations are where the morality is grounded. So yeah, raping someone is not good for the relation between you and that person at all.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. It doesn't. It doesn't. I think you subtly contradict yourself when you say that it's because even how you are putting it. I forget exactly how you said it. It's I forget exactly how you said it, but well, I did quote one thing that you said. If I want to be moral, I ought not to kill people. Just that ought, you have to ground that somewhere.
Yeah, the
You can't
grounding
ground
was
that
the
in
if then.
relationships.
The grounding was the if then statement, right?
Sure.
So that's the whole point of the hypothetical imperative is you have to have an if X, then Y. So the oughts don't come from any objective feature of the world. They have to proceed, or they have to come from like some type of value or knowledge that you're discovering. And then your own rationality will say, okay, now I ought to do this because I've discovered X feature about the
Okay.
world.
So who and how, I guess I'll say, defined good and bad? How's that defined?
So, well, the question's a bit too broad because who and how for thousands of years, for millennia, this question's been answered differently. So, depending on the who, like if I'm a Christian, the good is defined by following Jesus' teachings or following the moral law of God. That's what the good is, right? So to say like who defined this and how is way too broad because there's so many definitions of what the good is, right? Mine and yours being two different versions of that. So
Well,
are you
I
saying
think
from
we
my
believe.
system who
Yeah,
defined it? So
absolutely.
in my system, who's defining it is people, is us, these rational creatures
Hmm.
who use language to describe the objective world that we're living in. So, and we get it wrong all just like it like we I don't know how you feel about like science and all that, but like if
Go
you're a
ahead.
flat earther or anything, and that
Oh,
like
no, no,
I'm not
no,
gonna
no,
shit
no,
on
no,
you,
no,
but
no, no,
okay.
no. I'll
So
say
this
this.
is a
I'll say
good
this because this
example,
is.
right? Like this is a good example. Humans for a long time believed in a flat earth. Um, but we've been always progressing and attempting to describe our earth accurately, and eventually over time butting heads with each other, scientists doing tests and arguing with each other, we have come to that truth together through dialogue. In the same way, I think we're doing that with morality. We're discovering these principles of how we're interacting with each other, and it's taking us a long time. I'll grant that because people are selfish, but over time we're finding principles like what Jesus taught that work for everybody, right? That loving your neighbor is a good principle to live by.
Right, but now you're talking about a subjective morality. You're talking about us coming together and basically agreeing on things that we both agree that are good. So we're gonna call this thing that we agree in objective, and then kind of spreading it to other people.
No, it's
Then
not.
you're
So
creating that's
this
you're
is
talking about. Sorry, go ahead.
this is why I tried to bring up the flat earth example, because it's not that we're just like making it up and then like agreeing. I think we're discovering it through our observations of the world, right? Just like we were wrong about flat earth for how long, over time and through dialogue and experimentation, we actually found the truth to our natural reality, or at least what we think. I mean, that could still change, right? In 100 years, maybe we'll think the earth is a different shape. I don't know. But like, it's not that we're just making it up and agreeing. It's that we're watching how we behave and interact in relations, and there's an objective good and bad to those relations, and we're discovering those principles as we talk about it.
Uh Yeah, I don't think that that's a strong case just because it you talking about it is how I'm struggling to make sense of it just because it doesn't make sense, but
Let me just try to put it one more way, and then we're gonna have to move on to yours. I could talk about this all day, but we've already gone like almost an hour, which is
Sure.
fucking crazy. But um, so you know how flocks of birds, when they're migrating, they'll form a V shape.
Yeah, you talked about this, I think, the other time. Yeah.
Yeah. So us as outsiders observing that natural phenomena
Mhm.
in the world, right? We understand, like, as we've investigated it, we've started to
Yeah.
understand scientifically why they do that, so that they don't get tired and exhausted, right? They're
Mhm.
cooperating as a cohesive unit together
Mhm.
in an objectively. This isn't, even though each one of those birds is having a subjective experience, and they're not necessarily thinking like, oh, like, I'm not tired, I'm gonna go to the front so Jimmy can take a break. Like, they're not actually like actively thinking about each other that way, we don't think, but they're just sort of going with like how the best form of cooperation works for them. And that just the best way happens to be for them rotating in a V, right?
Mhm.
So the same way humans are engaging in this cooperation, this web of relations, right? And if an alien were to come and scientifically observe and study us, they would be able to detect that. They look at how they treat each other, look at how specifically they seem to be kinder to their family, to their friends, to the ones closest around them, right? But look at how some of these are super empathetic to even strangers. Look how they go out of their way to strangers. And they could actually like objectively observe how we're treating each other and cooperating in a system of relations.
I think you definitely see the best in people. I think in reality,
Perhaps.
it's not like that at all. I think of way back uh when humans were just tribal people, and it's my people against your people. It's not like
And we're still like
love.
that, right?
Exactly, nothing changed, and I think I think you definitely see the best in people, which is
Well, I
great, which is
disagree that
great.
nothing changed. I do think we have been progressing. I think we've gotten better as we've been evolving. And
For sure.
if you believe in evolution, like, I don't know again if you do or not, but
I,
just
I do.
assuming, okay,
Or sorry,
assuming
in
that
it,
you do, right?
I'll define it.
It takes a really long time, unless I again, okay, do you believe in like a really old earth or like a young?
Finish your thing, and I'll define exactly what I
Okay.
believe, because
So for me, evolution takes a very, very, very long
yeah,
time. So yes, we are shitty, but we are slowly getting better, and we're getting better because we're discussing and developing these moral systems,
sure.
including Christianity. That was a pivotal moment for humanity in discovering moral truths about the world. So yeah, it's a slow process, but I think we're doing it over time.
Hold on. Let's back up. You said Christianity was big to discovering the objective morality. In what way? Do you mean Jesus or the
Yeah,
Old Testament?
yeah, Christianity specifically, yeah, Jesus, yes.
Jesus. So you think
His
you,
teachings, yes.
but do you think that before Jesus there's less discovered of that objective morality?
I wouldn't necessarily say there's less discovered, but
Yeah,
Jesus was
I
pivotal.
use that kind of loosely,
Yeah.
but
He was
yeah,
pivotal in the sense that his message carried. And actually, some of the reason it carried could be shitty reasons, right? Like the Crusades, like you mentioned, right? But
yeah,
the point is it changed the world because it carried throughout the world. Whereas I do think these moral truths were discovered before Jesus, but they sort of stayed niche to their little community. And so, like, for example, there's something similar to the golden rule in Confucianism, which is hundreds of years before Judaism even was formed, right? They weren't even in
hmm.
contact with anyone near Canaan and the Canaanites, but they discovered this sort of golden rule principle.
I I mean, sure. Uh, so to answer your question, like, what I believe in? I don't believe in a flat Earth. That's big good. The Bible does not say that the Earth is flat. Uh, the Bible is very poetic. You got to read it very much in context and kind of interpret different things. It doesn't contradict uh, evolution. And I define evolution very kind of like loosely, where I absolutely do think that we humans and animals did evolve, not from a bacteria molecule or whatever, like we came out of primordial soup, um, because there's also a lot of holes in that. That being, and not, I don't want to get too deep into this, but I'm just
Yeah, same.
saying my own from observing science. There's no mechanism from going, I think, to a molecule to a bacteria or to a living thing, and then from a living thing, that tiny little thing to an actual what we would call an animal, like a little fish or something that would maybe evolve into something that has arms and legs.
Yeah.
Um, there are gaps, I would say, and that's
No,
not
that's
to
fair. No, that's fair.
it
And I'm glad that you're a Christian that thinks this way, because I
for sure.
agree with
Yeah, yeah,
you.
yeah.
I genuinely think Christianity can go hand in hand with the natural science. Even if abiogenesis is real and full-blown evolution is real, I still think you could be a consistent Christian in the sense that God created
Yeah.
evolution to come about this way and then spoke with humans once they were developed or whatever it might
I
be.
think that does kind of contradict the Bible.
Okay.
The coming out of a molecule bacteria and that coming out of things, just because it says that we were made from mud. God picked the mud and breathed life into us and everything. But the reason why my belief doesn't contradict the Bible is because I just have to interpret the 7 days as 7 time periods, not 7 24-hour
Yeah.
periods, because that's what the uh what's it called, early um church, not the early church, early world, like the new world creationists and stuff. um and yeah, I think the just to define, go back to the evolution of humans and animals. uh I believe in dinosaurs. I don't think that they're planted by the government like some dude. I heard that from my friend and I thought that was crazy. I'd never heard that before. Um and that, like, so there's the humanoid kind of like skeletons and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. I think that they're just, that is could be part of human evolution. It's, we were created kind of a bit different, not
Okay.
like we
That's
are
fair.
today, and kind
Yeah.
of just changed more than evolved, if that makes sense.
So I'm gonna let you have the last word on that. Because sorry we even went down that track. We could
Yeah,
talk about that more again, maybe if we actually do a follow
for
up
sure,
thing.
for sure. I would love
Um.
to. I would genuinely
Yeah.
love to do a follow up, but that's
Cool.
just encapsulating
Sure.
everything like I believe in, and I don't believe in the
That's
stuff
fair.
that other
Um.
churches say. But
So one I'm hoping you agree with at least one point I made in the whole thing I laid out.
mm,
Um. I feel like there's probably more than one that you might agree with, but the
there
one
is,
point
but
being the is-ought thing, and what you just said about your friend believing that dinosaurs were planted in the earth, right? Even with
well, that's what his
empirical,
church said.
right?
Like back in New York and stuff, and but
But this is
yeah,
my
go
whole
ahead.
point, right? That there's no compelling anyone to believe anything. There is no ought at all.
Yeah.
Even if Jesus is real and comes to me and tells me you need to follow this or you're going to hell, I still have to decide that upon myself. Even Jesus cannot give me an ought that I'll follow, right? Or like necessarily, right?
Hmm.
It's only that someone has to be convinced and then they themselves like put the ought on themselves.
I think you definitely have the free will to choose to follow Christ or to not,
Right.
or to kill someone or to not. You know, it is part of your free will for sure.
Okay. Uh, I just need to shut up. You do yours now, and I'll take notes because yeah, I'll keep
Do
going if you want.
my what?
Your framework. So
Oh yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I just believe in God. Like I believe that I don't have anything written down. I didn't come prepared, but it's gonna be short
No,
anyway.
that's all right.
I talked about it a lot. But yeah, I just believe in God, that He revealed Himself to us, and the Bible is very reliable. I believe that the Gospels are probably one of the most reliable pieces of scripture probably ever, of all time. Just because there's 5,000 manuscripts all over Africa, Europe, and Central Asia that we can, or yeah, just all throughout Asia, basically, that got spread out after Jesus um, died, and the we have first-hand accounts of those people, of specifically Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John, and they just got spread. Uh, and the claim as well that the Bible is corrupted is bogus, because if there's going to be one change in one manuscript, or in one manuscript, there's going to be so many more to compare it with, and then to what's it called? Compare, yeah, just compare them, and see, oh, there's this one that says this one thing, and all of these other ones that say something else. So you're not going to believe in this one thing. You're gonna say that that one is probably, not true, which happened to the Gospel of Thomas. It was something that popped up 200 years later, and was found to just use the name of Thomas the disciple. And
Oh, are you talking about the Gnostic text?
dude, I love the Gospel of Thomas, man. It is so interesting.
Dude,
Not written by
Gnosticism
Thomas,
in
but
general is really cool.
yeah, I
I'll
haven't
tell
looked
you
in.
right now, if I ever become a Christian in the future, it will be because I believe in the Gnostic form of Jesus and what that means.
Well, they're
Um,
not
I
exactly. I don't know. I haven't looked into it just enough, but just be careful, because you know, from what I understand, I don't think we truly know what's true and what's not.
yeah, and this okay. Hold on, I wanted to write one more thing.
But yeah, um, but yeah, I think our moral framework, if you want to call it that, is grounded not on us. It's grounded on the very nature of God, like I said, and through His revelation, and through Jesus, who's also a revelation. Um, we can grasp it. We can tell right from wrong, right from the source, and not, I guess, creating stuff out of it. Um, Anything else? No, I think that's it. It's just based on the Bible. That's it.
Okay. Um, so to quickly touch on uh the texts and why they're trustworthy, all of that.
Love
And
this.
I don't I don't care to get too into this, to be honest. This is again something we can do in our next thing
Hmm.
because I'm not so interested in being skeptical of the texts themselves. What I'm skeptical of is the Roman government or whoever it was taking it upon themselves to decide which texts are canon.
Yeah. Council of
And
Nicaea. It wasn't the Romans,
yeah,
by the way. It
okay.
was um no, I guess it was the Romans.
I'm not
You
too
count
familiar with the
Constantine as a
history.
Roman?
Yeah, I'm
Because
not
he's like,
familiar enough with like the actual history, but I do know there was at one point, right, a council who created a
yeah,
canon and they
sure.
kicked out texts that they claimed weren't. So all of these texts at one point or another were considered revealed messages of God. And then you have a
Right.
group of humans gathering authoritatively
Mhm.
deciding that some of these words from God don't fit our religion or our message that we want to
Mhm.
give to the people. And so I won't even question the text being revealed from God or being historical or whatever, but I do question the way humans have interacted with those messages and formed biblical canons and religions from there.
Well, you gotta also uh well, okay, so if you believe in that, right, it raises the question, um either everything is revealed by God, some things are revealed by God, some of the books are revealed by God, some are written by man, or none of them are real.
Right.
That last one is important. If none of them are real, then where did they come from and who wrote them? And why do four of them say the same exact thing about the same guy with no contradictions, despite people saying that they contradict each other,
Well,
the
and again, I'm
gospels?
not disputing that part right now.
N-
Although, if we have a
Right,
discussion in the future, I'll come prepared to better actually
right, right,
take
right.
that position against you.
Sure, sure, sure. Um, there's also the other ones, right? Like, everything is revealed by God, which that is a problem because then they massively contradict each other. The Gospel of Thomas, which I
Right.
have read, is insane.
Right.
It is crazy. I would love to for people to just skim it, literally skim.
Well, and
It's
there's more too.
crazy.
There's a Gospel of Mary Magdalene.
No,
There's
for sure, for sure, for sure. I'm
there's
just saying that, like,
yeah.
I have personally read the Gospel of Thomas and I fell in love with it just because of how insane it is. Like, it's
Brother, you're on your way to
wild.
Gnosticism.
It is
I'm telling
wild.
you. I'm telling
No, no,
you.
no. I'm not on my not
It's
on my
still
way to
Chris it
anything.
still believes in Christ as God.
No, but
It's
it's
not
not. No, no, no. But that's what. Okay, so this leads into my next point. It's
okay.
the third belief, or I guess the second one that I mentioned is some of them are true, some of them are false. Some of them are written by man, some of them are uh, used, and this is true. Like, this is very much proven, and we have a lot of them. Gospel of Thomas is one example. Some of them are written by man to then, to your point, use that gospel to push forward a narrative. The Gospel of Thomas is written very carefully by a group of people, as far as I know. Again, no scholar, but I have read into the Gospel of Thomas specifically a fair bit, so I can speak for that pretty confidently. Was written by a group of people who that they were trying to push a message forward massively, massively. The reason why I don't believe that is the same case for the Bible and the Gospels specifically, and the letters of Paul and stuff, is the fact that uh, so the Council of Nicaea worked. So now we're getting into the Council of Nicaea. The Council of Nicaea basically. Do you know exactly what they are, or how
I
much
mean,
do
I
you know about
know
them?
I don't know historically a lot of the details, but I just know
Hmm.
what they did as far as making the biblical canon.
Sure, sure. So let's I'll start from Jesus then. So Jesus died, came back to life, and then people just started like believing this guy because, or they started believing in him before, but that was kind
Wait,
of the
can I
final.
clarify one thing real quick? Um,
Yeah.
just with the gospel part, right? So gospels aren't necessarily like revealed words of God, right? They are testimonies of
Yeah.
Jesus himself and his words to them,
The
right?
first-hand accounts, like,
Firsthand
of
accounts. And
yeah.
so to me, it seems crazy that any Christian council would
Mhm.
discredit Gospels of Thomas and Mary and things like this when they are testimonies of the God himself.
See, but that's where we have to. Okay, well, let's get there.
Okay.
Um, so Christianity began year zero,
Zero.
basically. But Jesus was born, and then, like, he grew up, and people started believing this guy. He died, came back to life. The Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John specifically started writing about this guy, and it's like, oh, this is way bigger than we thought it would be. We need to write it down, send it to other people. And they sent it to churches, and they sent it to all of these other places, which led to the 5,000 manuscripts, copied from the original to the same copy to the same copy to the same copy, and it didn't get lost in translation. Like we can look at them and everything. Fast forward 300, I think 32 years when the Council of Nicaea actually met. In that time, the 300 years, Christianity was basically illegal. It was looked at as a form of bad Judaism, almost, because they believe in this prophet, and in Judaism
Yeah.
you can believe in a prophet. It's God alone that has the authority.
And I also want to interject one piece here again. Christianity was already split into different movements.
Yeah, of course, which is
including the Gnostics, including Neoplatonists. There were Christians who believed in Plato's forms, the ancient Greek philosopher. So yeah, it was Christianity as a whole being prosecuted,
absolutely
not like just
yeah.
Yeah.
So then Constantine, Emperor Constantine, the first Christian emperor, wanted to actually get all of these Christians with wildly different beliefs and kind of compile them and say like, hey, no, this is what Jesus said, this is what we believe in. It wasn't so much of a my belief is the correct belief, let's shove all of those other ones. Why? Because there were 300 bishops and spiritual or church leaders, I guess, that met and kind of evaluated the books. There were, and again, like, just to put it in perspective, like 300 of the bishops met and agreed on the same thing, to have Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John, and not Gospel of Thomas, for example. They decided, and they came to the conclusion that the Gospel of Thomas and the Gospel of Mary were written later, or they dug deep into it, and they had multiple councils as well. They had the second council in the Hagia Sophia, which is a big church in Turkey, modern day Turkey. They met multiple times, so
Yeah.
there were multiple. I don't think,
Well,
I
but
think it's
again,
very credible
again, like,
to just
they could have been as unbiased as possible. Like, in fact, I was gonna go somewhere, but I'll just throw out even the corrupt part, right? I'll throw out the thought that they were trying to form an empire and wanted to make this biblical canon to have everyone in society fall into the same religion and agree on, right? So I'll just forget it. I love that I said I'm going to forget about that one and then went ahead and like explained it.
Yeah.
But so to me, like, because I assume you agree that these Gnostic gospels are just as historical as the others, that they are actually testimonies of Jesus Christ. Because if you disagree with that, I would very much encourage you to look up the scholarship on it. They have just as much support as Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John as being accurate historical testimonies.
Are you talking about which one specifically?
Thomas, Mary, there's multiple. Those are like the two I know by name, but yeah.
Book of Enoch is another good one. It talks about aliens and stuff.
But that's not a gospel, right? That's like an Old
It's
Testament
not a gospel
thing.
but
yeah.
No, it's not. Book of Enoch is a more recent one. It is Jesus' time.
Oh, okay.
I think. Actually, yeah, you could be right.
Well,
I don't
either
know.
way,
I haven't read it. I haven't read it. That's why I keep mentioning the Gospel of Thomas, because that's the one I did look into a lot, and I will look into the other ones in the future.
And maybe you're skeptical that of my claim that they have just as much historical accuracy as these other gospels, right? But just assuming for a second that they do, right? In any other philosophy or religion, like look at Eastern religions like Confucianism, right? There's always this master or this guru, this leader you know, we have Jesus, we have Muhammad, we have Confucius, who they don't typically write their own words down, though I think Muhammad did.
Muhammad
Um,
did. Muhammad wrote the
Muhammad
entire
did.
Quran. Yeah.
Right. So, but like Jesus, for instance, Confucius, they didn't write, they orally spoke their teachings to their
True.
followers. And then their followers went and wrote those down as forms of testimony and stuff. So, in any other religion, right, such as Confucianism, if we found a text that it was not previously part of the Confucius like Bible or whatever, it would be
Hmm.
celebrated and be like, our first like master of this thought has more
Hmm.
text out there that we haven't read yet. Let's get our hands on it
Hmm.
and read it. Like, this is from the guy.
Of course.
So it's amazing to me, assuming it's true, it's amazing to me that you would kick out any words from the guy himself, from Jesus himself.
Well, that's the thing where, again, I hate just mentioning the Gospel of Thomas so much, but it's the one that I know. The Gospel of Thomas, like there was this woman, I forget her name, but she wrote the book, the Gnostic Gospels, which do you know about it?
Um,
The
if it's the same author, I may have listened to a YouTuber interview her. Um,
Oh yeah,
I don't.
I need to listen to that. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's Alex
Yep,
guy.
Alex O'Connor.
Tables.
And
Lane
by the
Tables is his
way,
name.
most of my Gnostic stuff comes from him, and then like my own little
Yeah, but
researching
doesn't
stuff.
she
So
say that the Gospel of Thomas was written 200 years later and was actually not a thing? Like it's just not true.
I don't
Doesn't
remember
she
her
say
saying
that?
that. I Not that I remember, but
I
if
heard,
that's
yeah, I heard that's the case. So well, let's just forget about the actual historical thing and just think logically about it, right? So you have the four gospels, Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John, and then the gospel of Thomas, the gospel of Mary, and whatever other ones will kind of contradict the four gospels. Um you're you run into a problem like immediately. They contradict. So if they contradict, again go into the same uh the same conclusions. It's they're both true, which okay, immediately they're not because they say two different things. They're one of them is true, or none of them are true. You eliminate the one, you know, just because they can't both be true, they contradict, and
wait,
then
hold on
you
though, because what I think that I might disagree with them necessarily contradicting, right?
have you read them, or at least the Gospel of
Yeah,
Thomas?
no, tell me what part contradicts.
Okay, I need dude, I need to bring this up to you, man. Look up if you want to read it. Gospel of Thomas 114, verse 114, because they also have verses and everything, and I will read it to L audience. Um, so it's so just for context, it's the very last verse of the entire gospel. It's 114. They're all numbered and everything. So it says, Simon Peter said to him, "Let Mary leave us, for women are not worthy of life." You think that's all? It's not. Jesus said, "I myself shall lead her in order to make her male, so that she too may become a living spirit resembling you males." This is the kicker. For every woman who will make herself male will enter the kingdom of heaven. That's
That's
crazy.
that's weird
That's
too
very
because
anti-biblical.
well, and what? Yeah, that's weird in a
And
lot of ways.
that's just it alone. I started reading
Well, do
it.
you
I
know
started
what's
reading from the
funny?
top. What?
I typed 114, and you must have like I typed 1:14,
No, 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 no.
and
It's
no, but
114.
what's amazing is I found something that actually also seems pretty contradictory to the teachings. It says, if you fast, you will put a sin in your charge. If you pray, you'll be condemned. If you give alms, you'll do harm
Exactly.
to your inner spirits. So that's,
Exactly.
but so, and
Exactly.
this is a lot of times teachers like this who are very smart and wise and spiritual, right?
Mhm.
They will purposefully do. Confucius does this type of shit all the time. They purposely contradict themselves depending on who they're teaching. So, for instance, with this one here, if you fast, you will put a sin on your charge. If you pray, you'll be condemned, right?
Mhm.
You know, there's a verse in the Bible that's like, pray in the closet or whatever. Don't make a show of it, right? Because
Yeah.
that's, you're praying for the wrong reasons. So, like, and this is just hypothetical, okay, right? But you could think of a scenario where Jesus has a very arrogant follower who's like, I'm going to be the best Christian, the best Jesus follower. I'm going to go pray in public, get the praise. I'm going to go fast, let everybody
Mhm.
know I'm fasting because I'm the best Christian. And Jesus be
Mhm.
like, if you do that, if you pray, you're going to be condemned, right?
Right.
So it seems contradictory, but he could just be interacting with his followers depending on who their personality is.
Yeah, but then you would have to read it into context and say,
Yeah.
is he telling that person that, or is he saying it?
Yeah.
Also, um, he's not saying it to in that one he Jesus would be saying something that can you read it out exactly? It's if you pray you'll be condemned, right?
That's one of it. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
that's one of the lines.
that's a
Yeah.
lie. That goes against
Okay, but if you
his
prayed it in the
teachings.
way I described, do you think Jesus would approve of that?
No, but then he would have to say, like, if you pray in front of people and try to boast, then you'll be condemned.
Well, you're right that
Which he
you
also
he
says, like,
yeah,
it
right.
he said, he just says it different, I guess separately. He says it, don't boast, period, and pray in your closet,
Yeah.
uh without showing anyone. Like, he just says it separately, and that contradicts both of those. Point being, it's the entire thing. Like, you're taking one, it's this
Yeah.
whole thing.
No,
Like,
to be fair, like I need to actually read these. Like, and
it's
I
insane.
feel like
You gotta read it.
I feel like I'm taking a position now just to sort of argue, right? But
No, yeah, yeah, for
I
sure.
actually need to read them for myself to come up
No,
with a
you do.
more informed
It's so,
opinion. Yeah.
yeah. I would say read it, like, with the eyes of not trying to fit it with the gospels, because it's not.
I'll read
That's
it. I typically read everything the same way if I
right.
can, as possible. I try to be an
I get
empty
it.
sponge. Yeah.
I get it, but there's a reason why it's been known for over 1,000 years, the Gospel of Thomas specifically, and it hasn't been inserted in the Bible.
Yeah.
Just think about that for a second.
But you can think of that on the other side too, right? Especially because you agreed with me right off the rip of this discussion that religious institutions are kind of bad. And it's actually the followers who Jesus cares about. And so, yeah, I mean, who do I distrust more? The people who made the biblical canon or just
Well,
people who wrote texts that don't fit the biblical canon?
well, that's fair, but okay, then look at it not even in like, why the church hasn't inserted it. Look at it as a, why don't we talk about this? If this was true, people would talk a lot more about it. A lot
Well,
more,
this came
I
from
think.
that author again, and so I don't know how true this is, but I thought she was stating that although these texts have been around for thousands of years, we actually only discovered them like 100 years ago. So there hasn't been a lot of time for. So you don't think that's true?
No, whatever you want to say it. Like, I don't care if it's 1,000. I don't care if it's yesterday that we discovered this. It would be talked about a lot more if it was true. Like, that is just a fact.
No, because if there's 1,000 years of the Catholic Church, right? like reigning in their
Sure.
institute. They've right, and then these texts pop up. You really think they're gonna want to bring that to the discussion and go against their way of life that they've been
Again,
doing? Like,
again, I'm leaving the church out of it. Like the church, obviously, I'm saying
but
that
that the church
they wouldn't want to
informs a
touch it.
lot of followers, right? Like the religious institutions argue for theology and they inform followers who then talk to each other. Like they have a lot of sway in what's true or false in terms of Christianity.
They do and they don't, because they have, at least nowadays, right? Like sure, back then in the year 300 where they compiled it, like they had to compile it. The Council of Nicaea and these bishops, these 300 bishops, had to compile it because they had more information than everyone else. Also, they knew how to read, so that's oh, enough. um but today, nowadays, I think there's going to be people, regular people who didn't even go to, theology school like I am doing, that know more than the Pope himself, uh, about, religious texts. Um, odds are he hasn't even read the Gospel of Thomas, and I have.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
uh, and I'm not assuming he could have. I don't really care. But the point is that we have the same, if not more, knowledge going around to prove whether this is true or false. And I truly believe, and I will die on this hill, if this was true, they would talk about it a lot more. Even if it's not the church, the Catholic Church, whatever, it would go around from Christian to Christian. It would like just be sent on messages and on like, if it just came to my mind, like Facebook forums and whatever. Like Facebook moms would be sending this out to everyone, bro. I swear to you.
I'm sorry, but I genuinely think Facebook Christian moms don't usually think for themselves. Like I think they are being
That's true.
informed
That's true.
by
That's
their
true. That's
religious
true.
institutions.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
And it's not just moms. I'm not making this a sex thing. It's anyone who's just sort of in this net of like
the blind
religious
faith. It's
institution.
just
Yeah,
not looking at.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
And I'm
got you.
glad you said that
Yeah,
because, like, I respect you as someone who believes in faith, but you're not this like blind faith. Absolutely. Like, I'm glad that you
100%.
attempt to reason through your faith as well. Like, that's respectable to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, we need to move off the text part, but the
I
next
love
critique
it, dude.
I know I could just go for hours, but we need to probably
We
try
need it.
to
Yeah,
end
we
by
need to. We
like
need to.
yeah.
100%. We
Do
need to
you have
cover
like
it.
a hard out? Like I was thinking 5 at the latest or something. If you need to go
I
now, that's fine.
I need to take a pee break for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
But
Actually, I could use a water refill. So
okay,
let me see if 60 seconds does it. If not, then whatever.
okay.
All right. The Gnostic Gospels is definitely my next arc after I finish school. I will be fully diving into Gnostic texts. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, the Gnostic Gospels are crazy, bro.
Yeah.
At least the Gospel of
There's one
Thomas,
of
man. You
there's
gotta
one of there's one with Judas too. That I forgot
Gospel
about
of
that one.
Judas. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I need to read
Which
that
is
one too.
cool
That
because
one.
like obviously he was the big betrayer.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's try our best to maybe keep the rest of this just because I think I do want to be done by 5. So what are your thoughts on like presuppositionalists? Would you say that you sort of adopt that framework that you have to presuppose God in order to have things like reasoning, logic, morality, stuff like that?
It's a good question. Never had that asked to me. I don't think so. Like for
Okay.
reasoning, for sure not. Um, I think you can just reason and have logic without God. What was the other
Okay.
stuff? Morality, for sure.
Morality. Okay. Well, maybe this critique won't hit as heavy if you don't sort of buy into the presupposing thing. But I'll just try it anyway. Because revelation was a big part of your framework, the grounding that you laid down, right? Which makes sense. Like that is obviously important to a belief system. Like if God did interact with us and gave us his message, the revelation would be a very important aspect to that.
Hmm.
Um, so my trouble with revelation is that trying to think of the best like consistent premise way to form this. So
Nah, you could just talk. Yeah,
well, because it matters because it's what sort of forms the circular contradiction. Um, we use our reasoning to would you agree we use our reasoning and revelation to believe in God? Like you'd probably need both of those things to ever believe in God.
well, I think I don't know. I think you can leave reasoning out of it if you have truly like a really big revelation, like in Exodus, where a pillar of fire came down. You know,
Right.
I don't think you have to think about that too hard and go,
Well, we might
what is
nowadays
this?
though. We might, right? Because it's possible there could be some extra dimensional beings, extraterrestrial beings. Like you could still need to reason a little bit about that, depending on how it happened,
See,
depending on how the experience happened.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think nowadays, after the second to last revelation, Jesus, and then there's the revelation in the book of Revelations. I think I think we definitely have to use reasoning. I'm just saying, like, you could leave your reasoning out of it
Okay.
if it was a pillar of
So
fire coming down and a voice and stuff.
I
But
don't. So when it comes to revelation in terms of God's word, like the scriptures,
hmm
I think that you have to use reasoning in order to interpret God's revelation.
oh, I'm ready for this. Go ahead.
Let's go. You got a verse for it?
No, 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 not a verse.
Oh,
It's
okay.
it's again using your reasoning.
Yeah.
Um, have you seen the 60,000 connections in the Bible?
No.
That picture,
Send it over
dude.
though.
Uh, on the Bible, it's a really cool picture. Came out pretty recently. I want to say this year. Not this year. Last year or the year before. Um, let me send it to you on Discord, and
Yeah. Yeah,
then
yeah.
you can maybe put in the video somehow or something. I don't know. But so that's kind of schmoll.
Oh, it's just a picture?
It is just a picture.
Oh, okay.
It kind of so I'll explain it. If that one, I found a better one. This one's bigger.
Yeah, this one's small.
Um, yeah, that one's bigger. So what you're looking at is the whole Bible from Genesis to Revelation, and the kind of connections that they have between one verse to the other. And you'll see like it being connected not only from Mark to John, but from Genesis to Revelation. It's and not only, I guess, yeah, I guess from Genesis to Revelation, not from Revelation to Genesis, because it's easy to quote something that, you know, is already written. You can just write it down again, right? But prophecies and things that were said to happen, that were gonna happen in Genesis, that did happen later. I think that this is like the biggest proof, like physical thing that we can actually look at, and that you're looking at right now, is like, oh, this was not written by man. 40 men, 40 guys, because that's who we believe that wrote the Bible. 40 men, or different people across different, that didn't even know each other. Some did, some met each other and stuff, but uh 40 people didn't write this. They could not do this on their own. And this is what we refer to when we say scripture is breathed out from God. Um,
Okay. Yeah, this
you'll
is a
look.
cool picture, honestly.
Oh, it's beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful. And if you look at the Quran, um, it's like there's like three of them or something. Or
Well, it's a cool picture. What it's missing, what I wish it had, and
mm,
maybe it does somewhere, is like a number coded thing for each connection with a list of the 60,000, like breaking down what each of these connections actually are,
yeah,
basically.
yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that's
But you can
cool. I'm
look,
glad you shared
look
it.
it up. You
Yeah.
you can definitely look it up.
So,
Like it's definitely a thing. You can just look at it.
let's get back to where I was trying to go with this. I don't know if it'll work as well if you're not
Hmm.
necessarily a presuppositionalist, but basically, to me, like, God reveals a word. We have to use our reasoning capacities to interpret that word. Um,
Hmm.
but our reasoning capacities are also what make us argue for God existing in the first place. So all of this is relying very heavily on our natural capabilities to reason. And even if you presuppose that God has to exist to create our reasoning, you're using your reasoning to make that argument. So it's sort of
Sure.
like looking at what the base root is here. If we're going to trust our reasoning faculties, um, that they came from God, right? Then there's no way to verify that they came from God without using the reasoning capacities. So that's sort of like how it makes it circular, I guess.
Yeah. Um. Well, one way you can verify is by seeing if the prophecy did fulfill itself. Is
Predictive.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
huge for science and empiricism, right? Predictive power.
Yeah, because men can't do that. Like the mere human can't predict something out of his own volition and be right 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Unless you like make it really broad and you scam people
Yeah.
out of things and then you look them up before on the internet, which people do,
Well, there's way to use
But
natural predictions, right? Like
that
you
too.
can sort of predict people's behaviors and stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
I
yeah,
get what you're saying. And the
yeah.
reasoning problem, by the way, it's a problem for naturalists as well, because in a different way though. For us, we would say we evolved to have these reasoning faculties, but we
Sure.
evolved for survival. So how are these reasoning faculties actually pointing to truth? They could just be pointing to survival. So it's a problem on either side. Um, but I just think the weight of a religion like Christianity rests on God's revelation through scripture. Um, but before you can even interpret that, you have to rely on your reasoning faculties, right? And you can't just say, well, that's easy, God gave it to us, because you're using your reasoning capacities to say that. So
I think nowadays, like, you definitely do have to, and it goes back to like having the faith and the reasoning, right? Which you definitely have to have both. I think blind faith is a problem, and I think you're definitely being ex-Mormon, know that full well. Um, and
do you know much about the Mormon religion?
yeah, I know a fair bit. I know a fair bit.
Because
It's
it wasn't necessarily blind faith. In fact, it's very heavily centered around works. As you have a relationship with God and you are responsible for your sins, you're responsible to repent. It's all on you to engage in that relationship.
which is my problem with religion. Again, going back to like all the way that we started, it's the same thing with the Islam. I have the
Mm,
Quran like open over here.
yeah.
Islam is very works based as well. Is you do this. We were talking about it the other day. I think it was either yesterday or the day before. We were explaining Islam to a girl that hopped on Discord, and we literally described it as a game. You can have multipliers as well. Like if you pray at Mecca, you get 21% or 21 times bonus and everything. Like the only thing that's missing is like those little boxes at Mario Kart. And they throw a banana or something, bro. It's like it's a game. It's actually a game. Like you pray a certain times a day and everything. But it's my problem with religion for sure. I think Catholicism and Protestants aren't uh, uh, outside of this. I just think it happens less in Protestants than it does to Catholics. It's where I was talking about, where Catholics go to church on Sunday, repent at their bishop or whatever, their pope, or not the pope, but they repent and then just carry on doing whatever they want to do. And it's like,
Yeah.
yep, Jesus loves you. Cool. That's not biblical at all. That's
Yeah.
that's it goes against the Bible. And it's the cultural Catholicism and everything, and being lukewarm, which the Bible also um, goes against. I guess I would say, but
So
anyways,
really, essentially, your answer is that what I'm missing here with my critique on the reasoning is the faith part, right? Like you can't simply just reason about the revelation. You have to have the faith paired with it.
I think the faith is the. I think you can have your reason, and this is true for a lot of people. It wasn't true for me per se. A bit of it was. Um, I'm trying to think the name of the book. It doesn't really matter though. But I think you can reason your way to a point, and then after that point, there's going to be a leap of faith.
Okay,
Regardless, there's going to be a
that's
leap of faith regardless.
that's fair. Yeah.
I think the reason. Oh, here's a good way to put it. I used this in a conversation with my friend once. It's your reasoning can bring the other side of the cliff closer to you. You still have to make the jump to the other side though. But the reason is like the rope, like pulling the cliff, towards you and closer to you. But you can never have the cliff right next to you, so you just take the next step and don't do
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
So
No, that's fair.
it's a good.
I think that's a good I think that's a fair answer to my critique. So this is the last one, the probably the biggest, most expected one from you, and one of my favorite things to talk about, actually, because it comes from one of Plato's dialogues called the Euthyphro.
Mm,
I don't know if you've never read any of Plato's works, you need to, absolutely. Um,
I do.
so the Euthyphro, I'm sure you've heard of the Euthyphro dilemma, or at least it's been talked to you before.
I think so. Um,
It's basically leading towards argument about divine command theory. So, is something good because God says it is good, or does God say something's good because it just is?
repeat that.
So, when it comes to morality, right? Does is something
Mhm.
good because God says that it's good, or does God say something is good because it just is good and he's communicating that to us?
Yeah, I'd say the second one is closer. It it's by the very nature of God that He is good, therefore it is good. It, I guess you could say that you're writing, like He's kind of saying that it's good, and He's writing it, uh, kind of writing the law, for example.
Are you kind of wanting to say it's
But
both right now?
kind of, because there's some truth to the first one where He says it's true. He does say it. I don't know. I think it's very nuanced on the first one. I'll just say the second one. It's just like God's very
Well,
nature is good, therefore good. There you go. Boom. But
because yeah, if it's in his nature, then it sort of would be both, I think. And by the way, like
it
you
sort of
you
sort
brought
of.
up contradictions earlier, and this is a very difficult thing for us Westerners to grasp. We've been raised on Aristotle's logic for thousands of years, and that
Yep.
X has to be either black or white. It can't be both, yet gray exists. So how do you explain that, right? So I think we get caught in this trap of like contradictions. Like you can't have both of those things at the same time. But I think that it is more nuanced than that. Sometimes there are things that
Sometimes.
can kind of
Sometimes.
be both. Um, so let me just put it this way, right? If if it's in God's nature to be good, does that mean he's restricted from going counter to being like he has zero choice in being evil?
Great question. I guess it's like I think it's gray as well. I think it's nuanced because it's the whole unstoppable force against an immovable object where God does have the uh the ability to do all things, right? Let's say it's he's all powerful, therefore he can do anything, and that would encompass it. That would kind of fall into that category. Can God be evil? Yes, but that would contradict the very nature of God by him being good. I one thing I think about when that it make me think is I guess Jesus. No, this brings up way too many. This brings up a whole other topic that I don't want to get into.
Yeah.
Uh, let's stay on track. Yeah, I would say no. As the short answer, I don't think he can be evil just because it would contradict his nature. But he
Okay.
could only because he can do all things and he's all powerful. Makes sense?
Yeah. And so and this is right at the heart of the whole problem in my opinion. It seems to me like there is a limiting feature to God in the sense that he has a nature that he would never go counter to, therefore making it essentially not really his choice because he would never go against it. So it's almost like God is bound by something rather than God binding all things. Being the container himself, he is being contained by whatever the good is.
Well, he contains himself in that way, right? It's not he's being contained by something. That something is him.
So
Um,
let's do it this way. And we talked about this the other day, and so I know you've sort of already bit the bullet, I think, a little bit. Um, if God were to like come reveal himself, which that's already problematic because I think he said something like this is the last revelation. I don't remember what he said, but it was something about like the last prophet and stuff, right? Like we're not supposed to trust any more texts
yeah,
after Revelation.
yeah.
So this has already complicated the religion to like say that God would come down and reveal a message to us again, right? But in the hypothetical, right? Uh, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just that he does. It's not that he like completely backed off, right? Like he's just warning us that there will be false prophets.
Right,
Joseph Smith being one of them, you know him very
right.
well, um, and that will say things that go other against Christianity, right?
Mm, okay,
Doesn't mean that he can't um, influence or at times tell people like, hey, this
okay,
is going to happen, and in Jesus' name, it's going to happen.
okay.
Then it's going to happen.
That's good. That's great. That helps my hypothetical be
Yeah,
more
yeah, yeah, yeah.
probable.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. It's not like hands off, like after Jesus, I'm
yeah,
gonna lay back and have my margarita or whatever,
right.
Yeah,
So if God is the container of good
sure.
itself, right? And he also wouldn't go contrary to it because it's in his nature to be the container of good.
Mm-hmm.
Um and he knows all things, right? That's important for this as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it is maybe possible, at least in the hypothetical, that God could reveal something that us humans would very much intuitively think is bad, right? And I don't want to give the like the examples that everyone always give, like child stuff or whatever, like just whatever you think is bad, right? Us,
Yeah.
humans, we all have a sense of intuition about good and bad things, right? And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things a lot of us agree on. So like killing, rape, things like this, like
Mm-hmm.
it's fairly known that even if you do something like that, it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Um, so imagine that because he's like the author, or not the author, but like the container of this goodness, it's part of his nature,
Mm-hmm.
and he's all knowing, he comes down and he says something that goes very contrary to what we think is good. But he's like, you guys don't understand. I understand from your perspective, you're seeing this as bad. It's been thousands of years of this being a bad thing. But
Can
me as the all know, yeah, let's just say
no,
like
no, no.
rape.
Sorry. Go. No, no. You
What?
finish.
Well, let's just make it concrete. So like, yeah, let's just say like rape or something, right? So he comes down and he's like, yeah, this actually is not bad. Like it's not a sin. We need more children, obviously. So just go ahead and do it. And you guys, your human
That's
intuition doesn't fully
it's funny.
understand because God is the container of what good means, what
Yeah,
good
yeah, yeah.
is, and you don't have all knowledge like I do.
Yeah. I'm starting to remember, like, finally that we did have this conversation.
Yeah.
It's like it's the whole. Okay, so I would say yes, right? In this hypothetical, i- this hypothetical rape is good. Can I say rape on YouTube? I don't think so, right?
I don't know. I'm not monetized. I get
Okay,
like
well, fair enough.
I get like 30 to 40 views, so
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
too
That's fair.
as of yet. I'm not concerned.
Whatever. All right.
Yeah.
I'll just do kill regardless, just because I don't like rape. But
Sure, yeah.
whatever.
Let's do
Killing,
kill.
killing bad. Okay. Or no, sorry, killing good in this hypothetical. Um, therefore, killing good. Like that's just what it is. I don't think I think to going back to the objective morality, like we would know that, and I understand that it's a hypothetical, but if you were to u- universe 2, and in universe 2, God does say that, or I guess this God says that killing good, therefore killing good, like it's just cut and dry. um I would say.
Yeah. So basically you would follow divine command theory there. Like basically whatever God reveals to us, as
It,
long as we can trust it, as long as we know that it's actually God.
well, like you're leaving out the part where if you well, let's keep the universe consistent, right? Like everything is the exact same. It's just killing is now good.
Mhm.
You're still leaving out the fact that God still created us, and created us in his image. So we would not believe the contrary. We would believe that just killing is good. And
Well,
there you go.
that's why I didn't posit a second mirror universe. I posited specifically this one in which he reveals
In
to
the
us now.
yeah, so now you're rewriting this universe, and then it's kind of the same thing where it's like God
No, no, no,
created
no.
us.
It's not it's similar to like the whole like slavery thing, right? I know atheists beat the slavery thing to death in the Old Testament, but like there may be reasons that back in the day God didn't explicitly come out to his followers and say thou shalt not own a slave, right? There might be reason behind that. But nowadays we adopt like no, this is kind of one of those thou shalt nots, even though it's not explicitly written in the text, right?
Hmm. Well, it is. I won't get to it
Well,
too much
it's
into
not
it.
explicitly written in the
It's
Ten
not. It
Commandments.
doesn't say you don't have slaves. It's written every man is equal and made in God's
Right.
image.
My point, my
Therefore,
and I
slaves are not lesser than man. Slaves are
right.
just which is slavery
I
is
never
its
try
own
to
thing, but
bring up the slavery thing as a point against Christianity. By the way, I'm not trying to do that
yeah,
right
yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah.
I'm trying to like point out that God had followers back at a certain time who did not necessarily think that was bad, even though they were communicating with God, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not like that out of this world to think that maybe we're doing something wrong right now and God just hasn't quite revealed it to us yet.
Um. Well, I'll say I will say that God hasn't revealed some stuff, like the what happens to uh people that never heard the name of Jesus, never heard the gospel after they die. Like, what happens to them? We don't
Yeah.
know. We just know that God is just, and they're gonna be judged accordingly, whatever that accordingly may be. Great, whatever. They can go to heaven, they can go to hell, they can just not
Yeah.
cease to exist. We don't know. We
Yeah.
don't know. So that's an example of the revelation that wasn't
Which
given
is
to
why
us. We don't know.
evangelicalism is so weird. They're like so certain about where people are going after they die.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's I mean, and
Anyway, but
even in the Catholic Church, I don't know if evangelicals believe it, but purgatory as well. Purgatory is not biblical at all.
right.
It's
Well,
either
neither
heaven or
is
hell.
really
Like,
hell. Neither is like fiery Dante's Inferno hell either.
what do you mean? Like hell definitely exists. Like
No,
it's
no, no, but it's
biblical.
not like the evangelical version of hell isn't biblical. Like there's this narrative that it's just
Yeah,
all fire for eternity, and that's not necessarily biblical.
I don't know enough about I didn't grow up in an evangelical church or whatever, and
Yeah,
I don't.
we're getting off track
But
anyway. So,
yeah, true. Yeah, but it's a tendency, huh?
yeah.
But
So it seems like you sort of hold to a divine command theory. And so like you do, and it's fine to like bite bullets. I'm not going to like try and get a dunk on you or anything, but basically if we could verify that God came down and said, yeah, killing's now bad for this reason, whatever, you would say, okay, that is now good because it came from God.
see, that's the thing where you I think you're framing it in a way that it's a bit of a gotcha kind of. Uh you're missing the fact that like it would be not to bring up the rewriting the universe again, but it wouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
Uh
Okay. Okay. That's a good answer. So I would rather that than divine command theory. Okay. So
yeah, it's not
I'm
like
happy you're taking it there, but and maybe I'm not trying to like get you in a bad unfaithful gotcha or anything, but maybe it is a bit set
I
up
know.
that way. Just because if you're gonna say that God would never do this because he is good, he is the nature of good, to me that's implying there is a meaning of good beyond God. God just has goodness in his nature, but he wouldn't go contrary to it. So it's like he's bound by this set of principles, what makes something good.
I guess in a way, like yeah, sure.
Okay.
in a way.
Well,
But then again, like it is still true that um he could do evil, like actual evil, and not the evil that is justified in the New Testament. Evil in
yeah,
the Old Testament with killing people and everything. That's not evil.
correct.
Um, he could do true evil just because he can do all things. So it's a bit of both, and
But he probably
I
wouldn't, is what you're
no,
saying,
no
right?
and that's the thing. Like he couldn't, but he could. It's the whole
Yeah,
immovable object and unstoppable force
right.
thing.
Which
It's
is
the
why
exact same thing.
earlier I was saying contradictions, actually, the way we've been raised about
Hmm.
contradictions is not that accurate. Like things kind of can be both sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, but yeah, to me, and maybe you just disagree and that's fine, but to me, that just implies that like there is something aside from God that it's called goodness. Like there's just something that we call good and something we call bad. God would never go counter to good because his nature is good. Like he
Hmm.
contains the nature of goodness.
Yeah, I think we also gotta understand that damn, I'm blanking on it right now. Oh, I had such a good point. Oh, whatever. Doesn't matter.
To be fair, it's been 2 hours now.
Has been.
My brain's feeling a little fried. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, if if you think you got it here, I
No,
don't want to like okay.
I forget. It doesn't really matter though.
Okay.
It's kind of whatever. But God is good.
That's your last words.
That's my last words,
Hell
baby. God
yeah.
is good
Hell
all the
yeah.
time.
All right. Well, I definitely appreciate it, man. I think it was an awesome discussion.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Um,
Gotta have a
and
second
yeah,
one.
I'll hit you up. If you don't mind, it might be a while. I got one more year of school. Um, and then I really want to dive into Gnostic texts and I'll study biblical canon alongside of that.
Hmm.
Not not to try and prove one way or another, just because I want to be better informed, and then we
That's fair.
can have a discussion about the historicity of Jesus
That's
and these
fair.
texts
That's
and
fair.
all of that.
I gotta learn about it as well. I only know
Yeah,
a good bit of the Gospel of Thomas, and the rest is kind of like I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. Cool.
But
Well,
yeah,
again, I definitely appreciate it. It is a fun
I
discussion for
appreciate it as
me.
well. Thanks
So
for having me on, man. It's been great, and
yeah,
you're such a good sport about everything. Like you don't do the gotchas. You don't or you
try
try
not
not
to.
to at least. But
Sometimes they just have to happen. I don't know what to tell you.
no, but I get it, and I
I
think
don't do
you
them for
definitely.
dunking reasons, if that
I
helps.
know. I know. You do it out of good faith. You do it out of because you genuinely want to learn. It's the same thing that Alex O'Connor does. It's he does it out
Yep,
of good faith and does it because he wants to learn. He
yep,
actually, and you too, you grapple with with the message and you grapple with the thoughts, and it's like is that what it would really be, and is God
yeah.
real, and you actually
To
want
be
to
fair,
find
I
out,
think
which
you
I
do that as well too. So same back to
yeah.
you. I think you're a great interlocutor.
Yeah, I try to be. I definitely I don't deny that I do have my own biases that I
We all
have
do.
created.
Yeah.
Will do. Uh, but I try to actually grapple with the idea and not just do what a lot of religious people do and just say you just got to have faith. Just put it
Right.
up to God, and because God said it, it's true, and I'm not going to listen to you. The
Yep.
earth is flat.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Cool, man. Well, I hope to see you around in the Discord some more.
Mhm.
I'm sure we'll run into each other at some
Absolutely.
point.
Please let me know whenever you're free. I'm also in
Yeah.
school. I don't work, so I'm
Okay.
free a lot of the time.
Cool.
So whenever you want to have the discussion, if it's Sunday, if it's not, it's whatever. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
let
I'll
me
be
know.
sure to hit you up.
Thanks, man.
All right. Later, man.
All right, peace out.